And welcome to Fox News Sunday Panel Plus with Bill Kristol, Nina Easton, Charles Krauthammer, and Juan Williams. Let's turn for a moment to the proposal the President made this week for what is being called a bank tax. They have a fancy name for it as a rescue fee or something of that kind. And this would impose new taxes on banks that receive TARP money, some banks that didn't receive TARP money, banks that haven't yet paid back their TARP money, and banks that have. What about it, Juan? Good idea? Fair, unfair? Auto companies, by the way, they got TARP money. They're exempt.
They're exempted.
Fannie and Freddie, they're exempt. They're getting money. They're exempted. What about it?
Well, they're exempted because the argument is they are involved with job creation, and we have 10% unemployment. The banks, Wall Street's a different issue. Now, the argument is, and it's a populist political argument, that's what's driving this anger at Wall Street, is that Wall Street should repay the American people for having bailed them out. Now, the banks counter, wait a minute, we have repaid the money, in some cases repaid it with interest. Right. So the argument coming now from the Obama administration, and the President was on his Saturday radio address to make the case, that, wait a second, we also helped out AIG, we helped out homeowners who were in foreclosure, we've done so many things to prop up Wall Street, and this is really just a sliver of the profits that the banks are now making. In fact, I don't think it's
so you're for it?
I would say as a political strategy, it's a success to try to gain support for the populist energy and, to take advantage of the populist energy in the country.
What about banks that didn't get any TARP money being taxed this way? Fair,
well, the
unfair?
question, it's fair as long as, if they're paying these extraordinary bonuses to people, they can afford it.
The President is selling it with admirable dishonesty. You've got to be impressed, but by the way, he taps into the populist anger and pretends it's a payback. As you said, the majority of banks have already paid back with interest. Some of them never received the money, and some of them had to accept the money at the point of a gun at the end of the Bush administration, in which he forced the banks into accepting this stuff. Some of them didn't want to. However, on the merits of the idea, I would say this. You could make a case that because these institutions are now determined too big to fail, there's an implicit government guarantee that they will, in the end, bail them out, which gives them a competitive advantage in the market, the way that Freddie and Fannie had in the old days of the implicit guarantee. So they have an advantage in being able to access loans at a lower rate. What you could say is, well, this is a fee in which the government is recouping some of the favor it's giving with the implicit guarantee, because everybody understands, as happened in 08 and 09.
It's like a big insurance premium.
It's the way that a regular institution, a regular bank pays a fee into FDIC, also as a way of guaranteeing its solvency.
So, Charles, and too big to fail. I mean, this is an administration that backed by Barney Frank that supports too big to fail. They've got it going through the House legislation. In the Senate,
what do you mean supports too big to fail?
They support protecting companies from failing, finding systemic risk, going in there, making sure they're not doing risky things, and then basically
bailing them out if they do.
It's an implicit too big to fail. In the Senate, by the way, Senator Corker, Republican, and Senator Mark Warner, a Democrat, are coming up with a way that says, okay, these guys take risks, then we're going to come up with a special bankruptcy court. Let them fail. I think what this does, this bank tax, which is basically governance by punishment. And by the way, he's decided to punish the banks and not the sleazy mortgage brokers or the credit rating agencies or the homeowners who are buying houses they couldn't afford. I mean, you just pick out a sector you're going to punish.
Apart from the populist politics that Juan cited, isn't this really an inevitable result of the quest for revenue that this administration is in the middle of?
It's a quest for revenue, but I think
we're so deep in the red.
I think that's some of it, but I do think the bigger piece is that they're trying to ride this populist wave, and and I think there's also sort of a disdain for the ugliness of capitalism. Capitalism it's the system that we have. It's a system that works, but there's an ugly side to it, like these bonuses. So then make capitalism work. Make these guys fail. I mean, buy into the whole thing.
Now these bonuses are really part of the compensation structure for a lot of workers who are paid relatively nominal salaries, and they get performance bonuses. And they look terrible because it's a big lump sum and so on.
They're not nominal. They're not nominal by average American standards, the salaries, just to be clear. But Bill, yes, it's what they do is you get most of your package.
Most of your pay comes from your bonus.
And by the way, these banks are doing it mostly as stock now to tie it to performance. I'm not defending them, but let them fail if they don't.
Bill, quickly.
Yeah, they should. I do agree that the Obama administration is doing this to try to tap into populist sentiment. I mean, it really is extraordinary. Haiti happens this week. Healthcare is dangling by a thread, and the president devotes his radio address to this gimmicky 0.15% tax on bank assets. If he doesn't like the bonuses, if he doesn't like increasing marginal income tax on people's income over $1 million, I mean, there are proposals to do that. We could have an economic debate about that. If he doesn't like, the current structure of the banks, change the structure of the banks. This is just a populist gimmick. I don't think it's actually going to be sustainable. He hopes it gets him and Martha Coakley through Tuesday.
Thanks, panel. Please check in with us on FoxNewsSunday.com throughout the week. Chris, you'll be glad to hear, is back next week, and we'll see you then.